In June of 1974, two seasoned divers went on a daring expedition to explore the uncharted depths of the Agen Allwedd Cave. But as they explored deeper into the darkness, they would encounter challenges beyond their wildest imaginations. Terrible decision-making, reducing oxygen supplies, and an unforeseen complication would trigger a series of events that would leave one diver lost within the cavern's depths forever. These are the final moments of the Agen Allwedd diving tragedy. For the most adventurous cave divers, there's nothing more exciting than exploring the unknown passages within an uncharted cave system. However, cave diving into the unknown presents itself with a whole array of challenges and unpredictability, and as we'll soon see, even the slightest miscalculation or mishap can quickly spiral into a dangerous and life-threatening situation. In 1974, Martin Farr joined forces with Roger Solari for what they believed would be a groundbreaking cave exploration. Little did they know their adventure would soon become legendary, and not for the right reasons. At just 23 and 26 years old, Martin and Roger had nearly a decade of dry caving experience, but only 3 years of cave diving under their belts. They were exploring one of the UK's most extensive cave systems, the Agen Allwedd Cave system in South Wales. It was one of the longest cave systems in Wales, and the longest cave system on the Clangettoch escarpment. They had hoped to extend the mapped passages by diving into an area where no one had explored. A well-known cave explorer and diver, John Parker, had recently retired after discovering a third sump in one of its longest passages. But the question begs, was more to be discovered beyond that sump? For reference, a sump is a water-filled tunnel within a dry cave. Short sumps can be swum through by holding your breath, such as in the infamous Gollum's Cave. However, longer sumps, like the ones in Agen Allwedd, require full scuba gear. Martin and Roger aimed to go beyond the two fully explored sumps and venture into the new third sump. The plan was to dive Agen Allwedd in May of 1974. However, Roger hurt his knee, leaving Martin to go solo. Solo trips are far riskier, as there's no one to help if things go terribly wrong. But despite the obvious risks, Martin was determined to get through the third sump and see what lay beyond. Reaching the third sump was already an enormous challenge. The journey through a maze of tunnels, boulder chokes, and tight squeezes took hours. In fact, Martin had to hike for nearly a mile into the cave to reach the entrance of the first sump, all while carrying heavy diving equipment such as air tanks. Each tank had to be pushed through tight passages and boulder chokes, areas where unmovable rockfalls have blocked the tunnel. Then you would have to push your equipment through small holes and tight squeezes while contorting your body to follow. However, it was Martin's sheer excitement about what secrets might lay beyond Sump 3 that fueled his adrenaline to get through this arduous journey. His adventure started with a challenging path over 4,000 feet long, filled with stoops, low crawls, and tight squeezes in the southern stream passage. The first two sumps, stretching 250 and 85 feet respectively, were a breeze for an experienced diver like Martin. But even for the seasoned explorer, swimming through these tight underwater tunnels to emerge into small pools leading to unknown territories was no small feat or easy task. The third sump was a different beast altogether. 850 feet of unknown waters, a journey no one had completed before. Martin was determined to see what lay at the end, though unsure if his air supply would suffice. However, when he finally surfaced in a new air chamber after what felt like an eternity, the thrill of discovery propelled him forward. Leaving his gear at the edge, he followed a winding path, zigzagging for 1,800 feet. Rounding a corner, he made the startling discovery. There was yet another sump, but even Martin knew he wasn't well equipped to continue the exploration. The sight was both a promise of further mysteries and a stark reminder of his limitations. His remaining air was just enough to ensure a safe return through the daunting path he had just conquered. and so he retreated back with the exciting news. Back on the surface, Martin's first call was to his fellow explorer, Roger. They shared a unique thrill, a bond forged in the remote, shadowy depths of the Earth. Their next mission was clear: to return with extra air tanks, dive through 4 claustrophobic water tunnels, and reach a new, unexplored cave or air pocket. The thought of being enveloped by the oppressive, trapped feeling deep within the cave's belly would terrify most. But for Martin and Roger, it was the call of the unknown that drew them deeper. On the chilly morning of June 15th, 1974, Roger and Martin retraced Martin's previous steps deep into the cave. Before diving into Sump 3, they each switched to new air tanks, leaving their half-used ones on the bank for the return journey. With 6 tanks between them, they now faced the depths of Sump 3 and beyond, with 2 full ones each. Their hearts pounding with anticipation as they moved beyond Sump 3 into unexplored territory. This new path was a thrilling first for Roger. As they swam through the 1,800-foot stretch of Sump 3, their excitement was evident. They moved cautiously, mindful not to damage their vital gear, but as they approached the sump pool, a chilling dread suddenly overcame them. The vibrant energy that had fueled them just moments ago gave way to a heavy silence. The cave's walls seemed to inch closer, the air growing thick and oppressive. Despite having full tanks ready for Sump 4, a creeping fear took hold. It was a realization that a single malfunction could trap them there forever, so far away from safety. Shaking off the dread, they prepared to dive. Roger had 400 feet of line, and Martin added another 1,000 feet. Diving side by side, yet each alone with their thoughts, they faced the reality that their safety hinged on their own vigilant decisions. Roger's smaller tanks meant he would likely need to head back first, and their different buoyancies, he floated above while Martin sank below, added another layer to their complex dance through the depths. Navigating the narrow passages of the new Sump 4, they went deeper, laying their line in the murky waters. Panic was not an option this deep into the cave. When Roger's line ended, Martin continued, laying another 100 feet despite Roger's worsening sinus pain, a familiar but unwelcome agony that he stubbornly fought through. However, at this point, Martin made a critical error that would lead to the horrible tragedy that unexpectedly unfolded. Driven by reckless curiosity, he now broke the cardinal rule of cave diving, that is, the rule of thirds, which dictates turning back after using 1/3 of your air to ensure a safe return. Ignoring this, he ventured further, lured by the possibility of an air pocket just beyond a gravel rock wall. His tank was now dangerously past half empty, but he pressed on. Martin climbed the wall, heart racing as he neared what he hoped was a breakthrough, but his hope was instantly crushed by the worst scenario possible. It was a solid rock ceiling overhead, a dead end. Reluctantly, he followed the path to the right, desperate for air, only to face yet another dead end. Realizing the danger, he turned back, his eyes meeting Roger's at the junction. Roger's shocked expression mirroring the dire urgency. With Roger possibly short on air and the promise of safety a harrowing 500 feet away, the realization hit. They had to escape now. Their adventure, teetering on the edge of disaster, left them racing against their dwindling air supply to find the surface. Martin, with urgency mounting, descended to the passage's floor and traced their lifeline toward the exit. He'd barely covered 130 feet when his tank emptied. Switching to his reserve with a tense calm, he realized it held just enough air for the precarious stretch through this sump and 850 feet through the next sump. A partial tank waited beyond if he could just reach it. Emerging into the air-filled chamber, Martin's relief was palpable, yet a glance at his gauge confirmed a looming crisis. His air was critically low. As he waited for Roger, anxiety gripped him. Roger, with even less air in his smaller tanks, faced grim odds. Minutes stretched into agonizing silence. 1 hour passed. No sign of Roger. Despair settled in. No bubbles, no ripples, nothing disturbed the still water. With heavy certainty, Martin concluded Roger had run out of air, trapped with no escape in the silent depths. Compelled by desperate hope, Martin tightened the guideline. It gave way, severed. Pulling the line revealed a clean cut at 430 feet, Roger's last known position. The scenario was bleak. It was likely that Roger had been attempting a tank switch at this critical juncture. Due to inferior diving equipment of the 1970s, it wasn't far-fetched that this scenario could have easily led to Roger being tangled. In a desperate bid for air, he might have cut the guideline to free himself, only to get lost in the silted passages. The exact cause of his air depletion remains unknown, but the struggle must have been intense as he searched in vain for an air pocket. Martin's heart sank as he grasped the line, the reality setting in with the cold, still waters around him. Grappling with his own fear, he had to stay calm to navigate the 3 remaining dives and the arduous hike to the surface. It would be hours before he could alert anyone about Roger and organize a search team to help locate the body. Tragically, he was never found. So many mistakes were made in this dive exploration. Had they adhered to the rule of thirds, Roger might have survived the trek. With half a tank left, he could have reoriented and found his way out. And if Martin had reserved more air, he could have searched for Roger when he failed to reappear. Martin later vowed never to break the rule of thirds again, a promise he kept throughout his distinguished diving career. And despite extensive search efforts in the weeks and years following the accident, Roger's body remained lost in the depths of the cave. That is, until years later. In the fall of 1986, cavers Ian Rowland and Julian Walker pushed beyond Martin's limit. At 720 feet into the sump, they found Roger Solari's body, 12 years after he went missing. The section of the cave was later renamed to Remembrance Series as a tribute to the brave diver. This terrible tragedy is just a morbid reminder to always follow the cardinal rules of cave diving, especially when exploring new territory that has never been seen.